I know.
I wasn't apologizing to you, Dan. I was
All right.
apologizing to Mark.
All
Recording in
right.
progress. Right,
So,
everyone, be
hey,
quiet.
I'm
We've
going
got
to do
we've got three podcasts hosting a podcast at once. It's not going to work.
okay.
We're all going to
So,
be like, I'm in charge.
no. Well,
Right,
I'm
I'll
gonna
behave.
start it, and I'm gonna introduce myself. It'll be me, Melvin, Dan, and then Mark.
Mhm.
All right.
Mhm.
Well, hello, and welcome to Gallifrey's Most Wanted. I'm Ross Aiken. I'm old who.
Oh, I thought that was Dan's turn.
No, it's your turn.
I wasn't paying attention. My name is Melvin. I represent YooHoo.
My name is Dan, and I represent doing too many podcasts, but enjoying them all.
And I'm Mark, and I'm Trap Who.
Okay.
Ah.
So, folks, we're here for this is the fourth of the Ninth Doctor and Billy stories. It is called Cloud 8. I'm going to jump off. We're going to come back in a second, but I'm going to give you the pertinent data and a short synopsis, and we'll be right back. Cloud 8, The Ninth Doctor Adventures, Series 4, Episode 4. Writer, Lauren Mooney and Stuart Pringle. Director, Helen Goldwyn. Producer, Matt Fitton. Release date, February 3rd, 2026. Publisher summary. The Doctor and Rose travel to the 47th century, Earth's second dark age. But when they arrive in the floating box city of High Wycombe, it's more like a paradise. The residents live an existence of endless leisure at night and sleep a blissful, dreamless sleep. But cracks soon begin to show on its perfect, polished surface, and something terrible is brewing in the mind of teenage Elsa, something ancient and hungry, something that sounds like a nightmare. All right. Mark hasn't been on it in a while, so I'm gonna let him go first today. What's your take, your general take on this one?
I really enjoyed this one. Yeah, I think it's good for this series to, well, sort of get away from the Powell estate, or at least get away from the 2005 era Powell estate. Something obviously weird going on there. I'm sure we'll talk about the arc of the season. It's nestled inside series 1, where they never leave Earth or Earth orbit, and it's narrowed in even further, where they don't really leave the Powell estate or its environs, do they? In this series, so it's good to go away from that and see kind of a vision for the future. I like the idea of another dark age, and then particularly the Doctor sort of tying that into the way that we're giving up kind of autonomy and things like that at the moment to phones and AI and things like that, and how that's extrapolated out into the future. So it's quite a cool look at the future. And then just the repeated day thing, obviously kind of makes you feel a bit like life can feel a bit like that, just kind of getting up for work every day and doing the same things. So yeah, it kind of felt I suppose quite kind of pointed in that way about life and AI and phones, and not kind of creating anything new and just recycling old ideas and stories, and all the characters are named after characters from films, aren't they? So there's some quite strong themes, I think, here.
Yeah. All right. How about you, Dan?
Yeah. Again, I always love these because they're always really good. But I do like the running thing of, oh, it's the Powell estate, kind of. Again, I like that it's called High Wycombe, which makes me laugh because of New Earth, and also High Wycombe in Buckinghamshire, which is reasonably nice. But yeah, it feels, again, like they always do. It feels very 2005 series. It never really strays away from it. Say, like in other big finishes for classic Doctors, you kind of get that 2020s remix of old Doctor Who, whereas this still feels very much of its time, even though we're using issues from now, such as the AI thing, which didn't exist then. Again, it's very entertaining. I do like what it's got to say. It's another big finish that doesn't like AI very much, which makes sense because creative people won't like AI because it's not creative. Unless you're Ian Levine saying it quietly. We're not going to say it. But yeah, like Mark was saying, it just basically, it just sort of has a lot to say about humanity and where we are now using sci-fi. I'd call it neuroscience fiction as a genre this week. And again, it's another Doctor Who where they go to like a utopian place and quickly find out that it isn't that utopian at all. So that's
Oh
always
yeah,
a nice little semi-genre within Doctor Who, really, isn't it?
yeah, yeah. How about you, Melvin? What's your take?
Yeah, I love this story. Lauren Mooney and Stuart Pringle, these guys just have an extraordinary hit rate for Ninth Doctor and Eighth Doctor. I can't remember if they've done any work for other doctors, but the sort of horror element they bring to stuff, and Dan said that the AI element is new as of like in terms of like recent story theme, but the ability of machines to replace humans. I mean, that's a very old story for
Jesus Christ.
sci-fi.
How many evil computers did Jim Kirk
I literally just
kill?
watched that episode with Daystrom, the original Star Trek series, where the M5 computer was going to take over the Enterprise and started killing humans. Just a couple nights ago, it just came on randomly on like Pluto TV. But yeah, no, just to develop the ideas that Mark and Dan have already brought up. Like I love this series of the Ninth Doctor adventures because it does feel not only situated but expanding that first series. Like it feels like more of the first series that we didn't see, and I really love that idea of that these are sort of like lost soundtracks for lost Ninth Doctor stories, and that we're just seeing more and getting more development of the ideas that were present in that first series. So that idea of, like Mark said, that you don't really leave the Palace State or leave Earth, but you do feel like you are in different locations. So I mean, again, they're developing that idea that and I love that this is sort of like set in a new Dark Ages, because they say it's I think it's like the 47th century or something like
Yeah, the
that.
47.
And we know that for the RTD, the first RTD and Moffat eras, that the 51st century is sort of like the
The
home
next
base.
thing,
It's like
it's
the
the
home
next.
base of the future,
Yeah,
like
it's the
the great
next. It's the second great and
bountiful
bountiful
human
empire.
empire. Yes,
So
exactly.
there was one before that. I've always liked that they did, and I really liked this part
So
too.
that's a nice setup for that idea that eventually we do come out of that in the next 4 or 5 centuries into
Thank
that
God.
next phase.
Can
Yes.
we get to that now, please?
but by the
2026.
same token, by invoking the Dark Ages, you have that idea that, I mean, I think everyone hears it when they're even a very tiny tot at school, that in the Middle Ages, sort of Dark Ages, whatever, that people never really went a couple of miles beyond where they were born, like, and so that's one of the things that comes up in this episode a lot, is that the people on Cloud 8, what is her name? Elsa says that she's never met strangers before, that she's never seen the sea before, that, there's this idea that people are so sort of inured in their day-to-day life that they don't have, like Mark said, the curiosity to make new art, to do new things, to see new places. So a lot of that is involved in, a comment and sort of reflection on where we are now. So I mean, again, all of this stuff comes into play, and I just think Lauren Mooney and Stuart Pringle do a really good job of involving, evoking the Ninth Doctor era, the 2005 era, of writing Kit Eccleston and Billy Piper. The other thing I really love, hopefully we'll talk about it more, is that they sort of push on that idea of the Doctor. In the 2005 series, he would always call humans stupid apes, and here at one point he refers to them as cows. In a sort of meaning that humans are sort of docile. So I mean that again is involved in that idea of no curiosity. You don't go anywhere. You don't ask questions. You don't dream. All these kinds of things. So yeah, I mean, again, overall, I'm just really impressed with this range of Doctor Who audios, and again, Lauren Mooney and Stuart Pringle, the way that they've slotted right in. I really feel like Big Finish is bringing literally every single heavy hitter in terms of the writing staff to this range, and it really shows.
Yeah, I really loved it. I really liked the beginning of it. I like because of the 2000 thing that you have. Davies was very thing that we were going to have the cliffhanger. It was just going to be before the credits. Kind of, I want to keep Doctor Who fans love a cliffhanger, kind of thing, and how there's a beginning of a story, especially in that season, there'd be a beat, the music, and then you would come into the bigger story, like the one Captain Jack's story, when it stops where she's on the balloon or something, there's a good cliffhanger. I really liked it more a lot about that, because I bitch about AI all the time. I don't not online as much, but it's
the worst.
It's one, they're not, the computers are not becoming sentient. They're fucking adding machines. Those the PayPal mafia dudes are drug-addled, narcissistic twits, and they think they are going to create God. They're that fucking stupid. All it is going to do is it's going to make some part of your life very easy, and it's also going to steal and just what it's because that's what they want it to do. You know, they want to control. We got a family here who's going to own half of the media, basically, if a deal goes through. And it's violent and it's terrible, and they want to do it because they want to know exactly what you're doing. They want to know what you're reading. They want to change. They want to dole out what you get to see and in what context. You know, they don't want, what they call woke or whatever. So I'm very anti it in the arts, I'm not really a problem with it in medicine and things like that. If you're going to, you know what I mean, where it's a computer learning from its mistakes, it's fine. But it would be this. This is the end goal. Because I found it really. The story came to me. It was up and down for me. It's like, what kind of story is it? Okay, it's AI. Is it going to be a horror story? I really got from the beginning. It would be a little scarier. And I felt that, okay, it's not. And then it truly becomes truly scary when you realize what's going on, that they haven't slept. And Rose is like going, is it the dust there because we haven't been to it's been 10 days or whatever the days, or is it been 10 days since we've been to the TARDIS? Have we been here years? And that loss of time and that they're being manipulated by the AI. And it got really scary at that part. I like that how, they show you the utopia. Everybody's happy and mellow. And then you realize, okay, they're repeating what's going on. And they don't broadcast anything. You discover that they're repeating it when they discover it.
Mm-hmm.
There are no hints to it. It's just like, why are you watching the movie again? And they don't attempt to explain it until the doctor says it starts affecting him.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah, that's when it becomes
scarier.
That's when it becomes that has that horror element for me, and it's really effective. You know how in Weeping Angel stories in Big Finish, they'll make those noises to sort of mimic the fact that when Weeping Angel things are happening. Like there are horror stories in which disjointed memories or disjointed experience of reality also has those kind of weird little sound effects. And I love that, like right here, sort of like right in the middle, in the center of the story, is when Rose and the doctor both get incorporated into the whatever the Wi-Fi thing is, and it is just like there is no indication. It's just like random snippets of conversations that happen back to back to back, and it's so disorienting. And I mean, that is really like sort of the most terrifying part of the story for me, where you're just like, what's happening right now? Because these like weird conversations that are happening, and you have no idea where you are, what's going on.
Yeah, because these writers basically they've done a lot of. They started off in Torchwood and they did sort of like folk horror type stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I like what they've done here, because I thought, oh, maybe we'll get a folk horror, but no, we've kind of gone sci-fi folk horror, but the folk bit is technology. But it's still very much their voices as writers. Yeah. So
Mm-hmm.
they've done the horror, but they've done it like body horror, kind of, with tech.
Mm-hmm.
I can't really explain myself, but again, it's consistent with what they've done before.
It was very much like the second Quatermass 2, the second Quatermass story, where the moon base has been copied on Earth, and there's an alien parasite living in the tanks, and it takes over an entire town, and it's using them to be their hands and digits. They all become they almost become machines.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really horrific. Mm-hmm. And I think that this has this, that they're using them as they're using them as hard drives.
Yep.
And they can, because they're basically water and brains. So
yeah, it's all a brain is water and electrical current.
Yeah, I do like that. They're basically a data center in the clouds. And then that's another little hilarious pun of they're in the clouds. And they are the clouds.
They only mention it very briefly, but I think one thing to highlight here is this purpose. Like, what is the purpose of what's going on here? And I think that they spell it out again, but very, very briefly, and then sort of pass over it, which is that the Earth below had been some like whether it was like economically or like environmentally like completely destroyed, and so they had to rewild it, like they had to terraform the earth again. And so what they're doing is using the human race as, and I say they, at some point it must have been there must have been, like Ross, you were saying earlier, the EULAs, the end user licensing agreement. Someone must have, like the human race must have signed on at some point to say, like, there is a sense in which there is a use that is being served here, that the human race is helping to restore the earth through computing power using their brains. So I mean, it's kind of like the Matrix, but it also is kind of folk horror, because you know, at some point something got lost, and you know, it's that idea of us to choose, which is, I mean, it's kind of incredible.
It made me think of that thing where nobody actually reads, you know, like the Apple user agreements or the updates or anything. You just click to say that you agree to it. So at some point, it's as though they've said, well, look, you don't have to work. There's no money. All of your time is your own, just to relax and watch movies. And they mentioned like there's croquet lawns and all this kind of stuff. And you know, sign here and we'll do this. But the what they signed up for was to use their brains in that manner. And on the face of it, and to begin with, you think, well, it's quite a nice life for them, until you realize that they're just reliving the same day over and over again, and never developing, and there's nothing inspiring them to create or any of that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's slowly dawning realization. And as you said, Ross, the thing about the TARDIS, I think it says like 6 weeks of dust on it. That is a brilliant reveal, because they said, well, all the kind of cleaning bots and stuff don't notice the TARDIS because of the perception filter. So that's how they know how long they've been there. And there's almost like the thing with the Impossible Astronaut, with the writing on their arms as well. That's another great reveal of what's been going on as well.
I like the true horror is that humanity's basically done this to themselves, like you said. They've just willingly sort of sleepwalked into becoming tech zombies.
But again, the purpose is a good one, because the earth has to be rehabilitated. It's just that at some point along the line, like, was there an end goal? Like, once the planet is restored, do we move back down? Like, it feels like something happened, and that's sort of the AI terror, is that at some point,
billionaires probably, isn't it? You know,
at some point
I want to say that because this thing about you don't have to work, there is no money, you get it's a life of leisure, is what specifically Musk says. Oh, we won't have to work anymore. We'll have a universal thing. It's like, if you want a universal payments, fucker, you could do it.
We can have it. Yeah.
You can have it right now by adding 3 cents to every dollar of your tax bill, you selfish prick, because that's what they don't want us. Their attitude is, Melvin's closer to the
we are the cows for them.
Yeah.
In many ways.
Yeah.
They want it. This is their end goal.
Yeah.
But they want us to go willingly.
Yeah. Sign up for it.
And it looks like they have. It's my favorite part of Lenny Henry's appearance in the Doctor Who with the Return of the Master and Jodie was you signed like agreement. He says it. He says it, man. That and he's one of the. I really wanted them to bring him back, because he was a better villain.
He didn't do much, did he, in the end? In that,
no, he wasn't developed as he could have been.
Because he's really great.
He'd have been a great villain for the Doctor, because he did it to his mother.
Yeah.
I mean, how hateful. And it's like, I wouldn't put Musk doing it to his children or his broodmares. I'm not going to call them his partners. What the fuck they are. And I'm not going to use the CD version. Cum dumpster.
I thought you were going to say C word then.
I'll say the C word right off. But
to sort of bring it back, like the Lauren Mooney and Stuart Pringle, like what they do is like the way that they tailor that narrative to Doctor Who, because it feels a little bit like the Matrix, but the Matrix obviously had that body horror element of we're all just like in pods doing this. So like there's a gentleness to the way that this story is told, because people they might not have agency, but they're still like able to walk around and have fun and go to leisure gardens, like Mark said. So I mean, I like the fact that Lauren Mooney and Stuart Pringle like sort of made this as a sort of gentler version of what could have been really, really, really awful.
Which kind of like
the folk horror aspect, because of it's literally one of the most foundational myths, and Doctor Who says it. He says during the first Dark Ages, the story that got people, the only story that really, and I think that's a bit of an exaggeration, but I'm a literature scholar, so I would say that. He says the only story that came out of the Dark Ages was Beowulf, the story of the monster in the cave that had to be destroyed. And the key story here, because the element that disrupts this way of life that happens here, like what happens, and again, I had to listen to this, and y'all are not going to be surprised, I had to listen to this several times to actually at least 5, maybe 6 times to get this. I kept wondering, what is it that disrupts, what is it that happens, like, because the doctor and everyone is asking at the end, like, what was it that, why didn't Elsa, what was it that disconnected Elsa from the machine? Because Rose asks her, like, did you always dream? Did you always have nightmares? And she's like, no, it really happened recently. And they don't say it out loud, but it's just the way that the dialogue happens, that it's because Rose is there. And you get that idea at the very, very end of the story when she says that the dream was about the big bad wolf. And I'm like, that is, again, it's just they did such a great job of working that in, like, because there is a scene earlier, and you realize at some point that when anyone is like Chihiro at the start, which I love that reference to Spirited Away, that they include that Miyazaki film from like 2001 as it's become part of the canon. I love that. But the doctor meets that person named Chihiro, who is taken away. That's the thing that we never discover, is what happens to the people who are deleted. And I feel like that is left to our imagination. But that every time one of these events happens where, Chihiro is taken out, Oz is taken out, when the doctor and Rose are inserted into the Wi-Fi sort of system, that it always coincides with Elsa having a nightmare. Always. And again, I had to go back and like actually trace it out, but it's the coming of Rose. There's something about that relationship and her, and the parting of the way is when she like is in every place at once and scattering her name throughout the universe, that it's somehow that feedback into the Wi-Fi that disrupts Elsa. Like, I love that. I love that.
Yeah. I'm going to go back to what you said about, this is a softer version, like The Matrix is the harsher version of this story, the body horror, but it's also like, it's the difference. It's like, I'm going to use that analogy because I think that it's gentle is not meant to be, is to soften it. I think it's worse. What I'm thinking about is kind of like The Matrix is like if you're buying food from a farm factory, like we got in this country, which are disgusting, or grass-fed, or what we call organic. Oh, we're being gentler to the chickens because they run around and walk around. This is just organic batteries. Industrial batteries is just, we're going to plug you into a machine and use your brain and not make it pleasant for you.
Literal batteries.
See, we're being nice. We're giving them pleasant things, but you've turned living people into machines.
Yeah. The words you see on the eggs in the supermarket are cage free or free range. It really doesn't mean anything. They're still in a factory. So yeah, the big bad wolf. I mean, that's what I was getting at. Was that the folk horror here is basically it's that primal story of the big bad wolf.
Yeah, I wondered if the young girl was, the implication was a little bit psychic. So being around Rose was that she picked that up, that intruded, allowed her to dream, and that sort of broke the system. But just come back to the Matrix, the other thing that reminded me of the Matrix was, the way the agents in the Matrix can just take over anybody. The system will just control any of the people when they need to take somebody who's malfunctioning, or they kind of, when they start spouting loads of facts, you realize that that their brains are broken, sort of thing. And at the end, when they're coming for, I've forgotten the girl's name. It's from Frozen, isn't it? Elsa. That's it. I put everything in my notes, but that for some reason. When they come to take Elsa away, and one of them is her dad.
Her dad. Yep.
Yeah, who is the actor from the Interstellar Song Contest, who we met at Hooverville, Dan, last year.
He said that he doesn't like Eurovision, and we were like, "Oh, you're a better actor than we thought you were," because we really believe that you did like Eurovision. We're joking. We were joking about it because it was quite funny, that he was like, "No, I don't like Eurovision."
He was very charming.
The night before the convention, we were in the bar at the venue. And so he's quite a familiar face he was on Coronation Street for many years.
He's been around.
Which, even if you don't watch in this country, you kind of inevitably
You
exposed
learn
to.
it by
You
osmosis.
know it. Yep.
Yeah, so I was getting some drinks back from the bar, and he was next to me at the bar, and I thought, just recognized his face, just sort of nodded and said hello and walked away in the sense of like, I must know him from conventions. And then I was halfway back to Dan and Hannah repeating everybody. I was
We
like,
went,
oh,
ah.
that's the guy from the guy from TV.
But that's what it's
Yeah,
like. Whenever you get, I mean, I arrived at that convention. I arrived at the hotel the day before the convention, and immediately someone went, "Hello, Dan," and I'm like, because everyone knows. It's a small. You forget it's a small world of people that do podcasts and go to things, and people know who you are, and you know who some people are, but vice versa doesn't necessarily know. So you just assume that everyone that you vaguely recognise is from the world of this.
And that I think
sometimes
is one of has
it's
been
lovely.
one for me, one of the really fun things about, and that will probably like either increase, at least continue or increase from putting the little pictures of people on the Instagram ads for Trap One. I've really enjoyed doing that. But one of the
Thank you
things
for doing that.
of course, one of the things I wanted, the popular Trap One podcast. But one of the things I want to talk about, Mark, off of what you were saying was to talk specifically about that relationship between Elsa and Rose, because the first three stories of this season, as it were, of the Ninth Doctor Adventures range, has been deepening and showing us more about the relationship between Rose and Jackie. And I really loved this idea of Rose having a little sister. And again, listening to this as many times as I did, it sort of made me want to think, like, hopefully at some point we'll see the reverse. We'll see someone be a sort of older sister mentor to Rose, like just exploring the various kinds of familial relationships that Rose either has or has not had. Like, you know, again, as an only child, I really just sort of enjoyed seeing her play a big sister, and listening to the behind the scenes. Like, it seems like she really enjoyed that aspect of it too. And I just wondered if y'all had any particular thoughts about how that relationship worked in this story, because I found it really surprising and endearing. Like, it was an aspect of Rose. And again, you were saying, Dan, like we get so many of these Big Finish stories that, you know, just sort of recapitulate what we know about these characters. Like, it's very rare, I feel, to get a new insight on a character that we know even as well as Rose.
Now that you mention that, it's making me thinking she definitely with Elsa, she's playing the Jackie role. For his brass and his thing is she's on, but she was a good mother. You know what I mean? That Jackie has to remind, in the show, she has to kind of remember that. You know, that what's the one where the one with the Linda, where she turns on.
Monsters?
Yeah, when she turns on, what's his name?
Elton.
Like, I will protect the Doctor. And, you know, you see who Jackie really is. That, yes, I might be a little flighty, I might be a little brash and Boris, but you come between anybody I care for, it's on. And I like, but with her, it's more the nurturing thing. I like that. I kind of think of it as that way. It's to see, because Rose, for both, I mean, part of her job as a character is to be the thing that brings the doctor back from the brink, you know, the post-traumatic stress. And I think we're getting a little more of, I just think in these stories, I've seen more of Rose correcting the Doctor, not in a bad way, but going, this is what's going on, don't you see it? And this time, I'm seeing more of that, her keeping the Doctor in line, trying to get him to realize people are, you know what I mean? In this, and in these stories, even more so than in the show. I think more they give it to her when she's with Tennant than when she's with Eccleston. She's more reactive in the first season, and she's more controlled and reactive when necessary in her second season. I mean, they wanted to show growth, but I think you see they're taking time in this to show you some of the Rose growth. And they're taking it on themselves, and I think it's worked. It really worked in this one a lot, I thought, because they both finally succumb to the process or whatever.
Yeah, they both get absorbed into the
so
Wi-Fi.
They both do, but it's good. I liked it. I also felt when listening to it at times, like when they got to the Cloud City, all of a sudden I'm in 80s Doctor Who. My brain, the set looks like, so look, we live in this wonderful world, and it's a bunch of corridors and with some plants. My brain just does that. But I they paint a really good picture, because that first section about the way the world is, and then as the world starts glitching in the Cloud City, they built a very good world with very few descriptions of it.
But yeah, before we go too much further on that road, I would like if we could hear like Dan and Mark, what did just before we move on, that idea of the relationship between Elsa and Rose, because again, I just think that that's completely unique, and I just wanted to pull on that thread a little bit longer, and if y'all had any ideas about that, because again, it's not a relationship we see through the rest of that season on TV. And it's, Ross, you started out talking about the relationship and that she's playing the sort of Jackie role, but I feel like there's something different here. There's a difference in a relationship between a mother and a daughter, and the way that two sisters act. And I feel like they do just mention that over and over again. Elsa especially keeps saying, we're like sisters. Can we have a sleepover? We're like every single time there's something there. Again, I just wanted to pull on that for a moment.
Is that because Elsa's basically a collection of film cliches because they just watch the same films again and again as well? I thought it was Elsa's projecting her view of family outside of her own family.
Elsa, the characters,
based on what she's seen on her films, maybe. Yeah. But I don't really have any opinions on this.
But at the beginning, but that's one of the cool things, again, on one of the re-listens that I caught right at the very beginning, is that Rose, when she's telling the doctor, it's my turn to pick, and so she starts putting in the coordinates or whatever, and then they land, and literally the first thing out of her mouth is like, first go Jurassic Park. And then she tells, and then the doctor says something or other, and she's like, yeah, but you take us to these awful places, and I found the land before time. So she is doing the exact same things that Elsa is doing. Like, all of her references are to movies from that exact same period.
Yeah. And that is how people talk, isn't it? They it's kind of a common language anyway. You usually say, oh, it's like that bit in The Simpsons or something like that. Yeah, it sort of reminded me a little bit of when she, in the TV series, when she meets, it's Gwendolyn, isn't it, in The Unquiet Dead,
yes,
or the plumber character in The End of the World, and she sort of kind of similar age, female characters. I think Elsa's supposed to be a little bit younger, isn't she? But she's very sort of gentle with her, isn't she, when she was waking her up from a nightmare and trying to comfort her and that kind of thing, and indulging her with the idea of a sleepover again and again and again, which is
she even says at the end, like, I think I've had enough sleepovers to last me the rest of my life. But again, in a really playful and like loving way. There's something really, again, like it's just something that I wanted to focus on for a little bit. I get just again, it's just not something that I was familiar with for Rose or from Rose, aside from, like, Mark, thank you for pointing that out, like that sort of, but those are very, very brief interactions that she has with sort of with Gwendolyn and with the Ruffalo, I think her name is, on the End of the World, the little blue lady, but very, very brief interactions where she has interactions with sort of people that are of her own sort of, like, again, like, she is a little bit, I think, supposed to be younger than Rose, Elsa, but there's something sisterly there that we see very, very, very briefly, but that is developed a lot more here, and I think in a way that really makes Rose shine.
Because Rose is supposed to be a teenager, so she's not that far beyond that kind of sleepover with her friends and that kind of thing, isn't she? And it's a good, like those ones on TV. It's a good way of Rose connecting with the local culture and finding out from somebody who's kind of would be one of her peers if she was from there. She finds out a lot about what's going on from those type of characters.
Yeah, because that's also even in classic Doctor Who, it's like the companion goes off and finds out some stuff while the Doctor investigates the main plot, and then so. But I know what you mean. They've basically trying to make Rose. She's very caring and she's very good with people, and it's kind of like a Jackie thing maybe as well, because. But then I'm thinking of Jackie in terms of all these big finishes more, because obviously they've built Jackie up as her matriarchal role within the whole Powell estate, as her found family a bit more. So I've got two Jackies in my head, if you know what I mean. But we're kind of definitely going. Why
haven't we had that big finish yet? The two Jackies.
Oh God, imagine. Well, we've kind of had we've had two Jackies, but not two Jackies together.
Yes. I'm
Oh
sorry to interrupt
God!
you, Dan. Please
Right,
go ahead.
I'll get on the phone to Big Finish after this. But yeah, we're definitely going for that maternal caring vibe thing, and also in the Rose spin-offy thing with the
Oh,
Dimension
Dimension
Canon.
Canon.
There's more sort of siblingy type stuff in that, but that's a whole separate thing. But Billy Piper's very good at it. I find that Rose in the Eccleston one is a much more relatable, nicer Rose because with Tennant she becomes a
Yes.
bit of a twat, and they're a bit too
Yes.
smug together.
Yep.
I definitely prefer Rose with Eccleston because
Mm.
I think we've reached the point where we're like 2/3 of the way through her journey with that doctor at the point of these audios. So
Yes.
she's done her apprenticeship, if you like, on time
Mm-hmm.
travel and doing stuff. So it's kind of nice to see how she just gets on with it.
Speaking of that, I wanted to, and tying it back to where Ross was headed before I please forgive me, Ross, for bringing it all the way back. But I love because Ross was saying earlier that that Rose is that she corrects the doctor, that she like steps in, and then Dan, what you were just saying, I love that there's a moment where the doctor's like, I've been so stupid, I missed all this, and Rose is like, yeah, can we just skip this bit? Because the Eccleston doctor can like get into that like beating himself up in ways that like feel a little bit out of not necessarily out of line, but a little bit excessive. And I love that she's just like, yeah, can we just get over? Can we just move past this bit?
I like the bit where Russ says to him, like there doesn't have to be a big conspiracy here, a big conspiracy here. This is just, it's just what it's like here. Imagine if you're an alien and you saw somebody taking away in an ambulance. But it's Doctor Who, so there has, there is going to be something. It's not just going to be, oh no, this is all great. We'll just stay a bit and move on. So,
but
it was, kind of holding up a mirror to the series format a bit, really, I suppose.
And one of the things that's really lovely about this particular audio range, in the way that it's developing the 2005 series, is exactly that, Mark. Like that there's an actual contrast between Rose and the Doctor, like the in terms of their outlook, in terms of their basic ontology, like their way of being. The Doctor is sort of more guarded and more cynical, and Rose, like you were saying, Dan, at least in season 9 or season 5 with the Ninth Doctor, is more sort of like full of wonder and sort of optimism and sort of like a more charitable sort of look at the world. So the fact that those two, I love the way that this series specifically, if you go back and listen to those first 3 audios, I feel like that character difference between the two is one of the things that makes this good drama, is that we are examining whatever scenario we're in through these two different lenses, whereas the Doctor is more sort of like jaded and like cynical, or as Ross always says, has this sort of PTSD. I feel like that's a little, I feel like they draw on that a little too much, but stopping just short of that, versus Rose, who has a sort of more to coin a phrase, a rosier outlook.
Just a side note, really, from my notes, but another thing that makes it very Doctor Who generally is the fact that, we said these people, they live in Cloud 8, they never travel very far, they don't know people from other communities, but they've all got widely varying accents from different parts of the UK, even though they must have all grown up and lived in the same place their entire lives. One of them's Scottish, one of them's English.
Yes.
Scottish people get everywhere, though.
Yeah.
It is weird. They don't really go there with that, do they? Yeah.
But that's the thing about I mean, I hadn't really thought about that either, but what Ross is saying about the sort of farming aspect of it, and what we've been talking about the sort of matrixness of it, like that like the place of it doesn't sort of matter. Like they just brought a bunch of people and put them here, like from where they are doesn't seem to really matter in terms of like, you know what I mean? Like you could get that diversity of accents and peoples because they're just hoarding people up and putting them, wherever.
We don't know how they got there, do we?
Yes,
exactly. We don't. And because it's only thousands of years in the future. What is, does England, you know what I mean? We kind of say, hey, there's a thing in science fiction. We go, everything from the day you wrote it is going to stay the same. There's always going to be an America. You know what I mean?
Starship UK, that idea from the Beast
Below. So and then really leading it into science fiction. I wanted to go back to if we're ready, is to the pop culture.
Yes,
thing.
I want to talk about that too. Yeah.
I liked it, and I'm listening to it, and as I'm older than the rest of y'all, it's like I'm like, what pop culture references does everybody get? And I thought it was really good. And then they call somebody Mr. Chips, and I
Yes.
was like, okay, I really get that one because as a kid, I saw the Goodbye, Mr. Chips, the 1939 film, which is one of my favorite movies. It's a beautiful movie, and Chips is a great character. If you can muscle through Peter O'Toole talk singing, the musical is not terrible, but it's actually very pretty, and Petula Clark's good, and he's good in it, but he can't fucking sing. So it's that Rex Harrison talk singing. It's like, oh God, just hire somebody who can carry a tune. There's got to be one English actor who can sing, at least in the 70s, because they all talk sang.
But yeah,
So, but I liked it. I really liked it. I liked
but
that
no,
Elsa was
but I
very
but I wanted to talk about that too, because while I say that there's no new art or no new fiction or whatever, it's very interesting that that the plot sort of that the one thing that they come back to over and over again is that they're rewatching the same film over and over again, and it's from the Western revival of the 2060s, which they say, but the movie that they keep watching over and over again is called Smoking Barrels. Which is very clearly a sort of pastiche of Blazing Saddles, but the way that she describes it, it could be more or less, what it sounds like is just a regurgitation of basically all Westerns. So I really loved that little detail, is that the one new thing that we know, or that we know that this culture has, is itself probably just an AI slop version of
God,
all
I didn't even think
Westerns.
about that. Yeah.
But I just the name Smoking Barrels, like the first thing I thought of was Blazing Saddles.
Yeah,
I thought of
it's
the spaghetti
generic.
Western.
Mm-hmm.
I really thought of like a Leone, like he did the Once Upon a Time trilogy, Once Upon a Time in the West. The second one was called Once Upon a Time in the Revolution, but they made them change the title to Duck You Sucker. It's a really good Western, again, with a New York Jewish actor playing the Mexican, Rod Schneider. Him and Martin Ball, him and someone else, they were like, so these two old Jewish guys from Brooklyn are the only two actors you can find to play a Mexican in Europe. But it reminded me of one of those titles, Hang 'em High, Fistful of Dollars. It was more the exploitation one.
Yeah.
I didn't go to Blazing Saddles.
What did y'all come up with, Mark?
Well, it made me think of Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, but that's like an East End.
Oh, I hadn't even thought of that.
Cockney,
that's good. No, that's good.
That is good. Me and my wife were talking about that movie the other night.
Dan, what came to your mind?
It didn't, to be honest. All I think that's
fascinating, though.
All I kept thinking of is I've never seen a Western. Is how much I hate Frozen, even though I've never seen it. But there was this time where every time you go to the supermarket, there would be girls dressed as princesses screeching that fucking song out. Like, God, what is this thing? But that seems to be one of those things at the time that, you know how there's not such a shared culture anymore, like in the 80s, generational stuff that everyone knew. Frozen seems to be one of those things that you just couldn't get away from. Which doesn't really happen that much in 21st century entertainment. So I can see why they chose that for Elsa as her name.
And I find that super intriguing because like one of the things, I mean, one of the basic things about this story, this plot, is that there is that the people on Cloud 8 have a shared repository of very, very basic references, but that how wide they seem to go, because they seem to go all the way from like the Big Bad Wolf to like the 2060s, which is like, that's not a small part of culture. But it was very interesting to me because the story is about, in at least in one way of looking at it, about the idea of shared cultural references, or of limited shared cultural references. So I was just intrigued to see what it was that each of us came up with when that came up, because again, we all have, it just shows the difference of what we're all drawing on. And the fact that, Dan, that you don't know it at all makes.
I mean, I do roughly,
but that's the thing is, but what I was going to say is that it sort of like mirrors when the doctor has to explain to Rose what Frozen is, because one of the cool things about doing Yes, it's one of the
Yeah.
cool things about
And the internet as well, because she's like, but with her WAP phone, and she's like, how's that going to work? The WAP won't work. It's like, but
yes.
I like that. And again, I think I've said this before, but I like, for instance, with Doctor Who, like in 2005 and 6, and they had to use the internet, and it was dial up, and it was on telly, and it was just really slow and crap, and the website was awful. And I love that kind of stuff. But obviously now we're writing this in the present, so we as society now and the writers of all these things, they can't avoid the technology of now, if you know what I mean. You know,
But it's one of the really cool things about
yeah,
this, and it's I just recently did a 500-year diary about Torchwood Children of Earth, which was there's a line in episode 2 when Gwen is talking to Reese about the fact that they're going to have a child, and she's like, what kind of world will we leave this child if we have it? And we have that answer now because we're 17. Like my niece was about 2 years old when Torchwood Children of Earth came out, and now like because of all the our government is falling apart, like it's weird for her like applying for colleges. Like we see the world that we left her, which is crazy thinking about something from 17 years ago. And what I'm going with this is like one of the things that I love about this particular range, the Ninth Doctor range, is that we do know the near future. So we can make those references in a way that feels natural as opposed to like trying to guess or speculate what the future will bring. So that adds another dimension to this.
I love the double
have those
double
references.
time we've got, if you know.
Yep.
I love this is one
It's
thing I
really
really
cool.
like about Big Finish as well is it never strays too much from it, but it's always written from now, and that's what I like. Sometimes they go too far and it just doesn't work if like a classic Doctor is far too modern. But I don't want here's another story about unit family. I don't care about that stuff. Doing something interesting with all of these characters is just you can do anything. So this is why this range really works for me. Yeah, because it's clearly 2005, but also there's a whole 21 years of stuff in our brains that we can use as well and mix together.
Which for a Doctor who has a sort of like darker frame of mind, like you can make like sort of dystopic references to the near future and be right.
It's
like
now.
I love that.
And that's a good thing about
It's
what I've
incredible.
liked is that when they go back and they show you exactly what, it's not this because you watch, as you watch TV and as you get older, you'll go back and go, oh, their vision of the 20 years in the future was pretty freaking not right. We don't advance as much as we think we do. I think it is that just say mankind, but there was a greater technological change in the 21st century than any time ever. We went from the first powered flight in 1903 and we're on the moon in 63 years. That's an incredible jump in technology. And we have that happen constantly now. The internet, you said dial up. Now we all walk with in our pocket a computer that has more thinking power than the space shuttle did in our phone, because that was just a Commodore 3000. And literally, they just put a Commodore 3000 in the cockpit of a spaceship, and it, at the point, was the most complicated machine ever built. And
by the same token, like one of the things we're seeing in this story, which we're also seeing in our contemporary lives, is that progress in some ways is really speeding up, but we're also seeing like absolute stagnation in other areas, or even regression, which I think is again a thing that Lauren Mooney and Stuart Pringle bring into this story, that sort of like object lesson or a warning about where we could be headed if if things continue the way they're going, is that we do see like a real stagnation and stillness. And like we see it here in the US all the time, this idea of like the rising xenophobia, and it's happening in the UK also, and all over the place with this swing to the right. But that's the world of Cloud 8 is like no one goes anywhere, no one knows anyone different than who they're with. Like again, this is a very effective Doctor Who story,
and no one's learning
in a lot of ways.
And they're only learning what they're being fed again and again. Which is kind of what the whole AI thing is about in 2026. It's control of what people see and what they devour, and then you will become like us. You will be annoyed about this thing. Click this. Get annoyed. Click. Oh, money. That's basically what the internet's becoming in the bad way. And you can see how that the end result of it would be what happens in this story, really, where everyone just basically becomes data storage, and they're just used for their brains, and they don't have to think
They're not
anymore.
asked to do anything new.
And because we don't have to remember anything, we know in the old days when we were young, we had to like remember facts and phone numbers and all these things we used to have to. Now I don't know anything. It's like we just fed information. We can look things up. We don't use our brains in the same way as we did even 20 years ago because we use them for different things. So we're basically like our attention span is our asset, if you know what I mean, for all these companies.
And that's what the doctor says too.
Information at us all the time. Yeah.
And
so it's very real for me.
And he says that, and it's one of the things that I've heard from a lot of sort of socio-political commentators recently, especially the ones that I trust and listen to, is that idea of if you're not buying the product, then you are the product.
Yeah.
And I feel like, Mark, you were saying something about that earlier, where Rose like really like appreciates, and you know, she would, like, from the world she's from, she really appreciates the sort of stillness and comfort and love and joy that she sees in this sort of family where they enter into the home of Marty and Oz and Elsa. But the doctor's like, he's appalled by the staticness and the staidness and the unchangingness of it. So I mean, there's a delicate balance there, but like it feels like that's the line we're towing right now.
Yeah, it feels like also. This relates to something I've been reading. It feels like some ways it's like suburbia in the old days, where you grow up in suburbia and you feel like you can't develop yourself there and you have to go to somewhere exciting. There's no learning, there's no growing. It's kind of similar feeling to that.
Yeah.
Sort of like Edward Scissorhands, but all I'm doing now is making references to other things too.
Oh God! Well, that's what we have. Yeah,
it's our pop culture. I kept thinking when that came up, you know, we all just regurgitate our pop culture. It reminds me that there's a Star Trek with Paul Winfield where
Darmok.
I was going to
talk
talk about it earlier.
It's
basically pop culture references.
Darmok and Jalad at Tanagra.
Yeah, you know,
it's like Mark. If you haven't seen that episode, put it on the list. Put it on the list.
It's weird as hell, but it's really good.
Incredible.
Yeah, they meet up. There's a race that just talks in pop culture, basically pop culture references.
Right.
But it's like metaphors as well, isn't it? Or something.
It's really metaphors.
It's
but
really
the
weird,
modern
but
metaphor is just a pop culture.
It's a really good episode.
Yep.
Yeah, it is. It is.
It's sort of like what you were saying earlier, Mark, about that episode from The Simpsons. Like if you watch Darmok, just put it on the list. It's 45 minutes. It will blow your mind. You will love it.
It's so weird.
I'll take it. I'm not a big Star Trek fan, but
I know you're not. But I'm saying invest
honestly,
45 minutes.
About a couple of years ago, I did at home. My husband's never watched Next Gen, so I basically went through all the episode guides and I just made I made like a plan, and there was about 5 episodes from every season, and Darmok was one of the ones I chose because I thought this would be interesting. So it appeals to anybody, really.
Yep.
Yeah.
If it's an
I was just saying, you're just going to pick the 3 in
the
seasons 1 and 2 that are watchable.
Oh yeah, 1 and 2. I don't think it did any from 1 and 2, to be honest.
Yeah, it's pretty rough. American television, when you had to do 25 episodes a year,
it doesn't work.
That's
one good thing about modern day, where there's like 10 episodes a year because everything takes so long for post-production. At least you don't get the shit episode fillers, but also sometimes you need those funny little weird episodes. You don't get them anymore because
you don't get the character moments where you're going to go, hey, we need this character to emotionally and kind of be someone.
The episode where everyone loses their memory, or the episode where they're all stuck in a room together to learn about their, the cheap episode. They're often really interesting.
Yeah, bottle show.
I do like a bottle show. Yeah, Doctor Who's really good at that in the old days.
Yeah. But yeah, for Cloud 8, like for an episode which is more or less like, let's do a different version of what was the platform, Satellite 5, The Long Game. I mean, it more or less is that plot line, but they're like, let's make it somewhere like between them. It's this episode, but mix in The Matrix with Ready Player One, because if y'all have seen or read Ready Player One, like there's it's a big tournament where everyone has to memorize everything about the 80s in order to win. It's crazy, but like that's basically what we have here is like, let's redo The Long Game but situate it somewhere between The Matrix and Ready Player One. Like I just think the Lauren Mooney and Stuart Pringle have just done a phenomenal job.
Yeah,
Just
I'm gonna have to
phenomenal.
go in because I'm way behind on a lot of Big Finish. I need to kind of check these guys out. I love that it's Helen Goodwin.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Helen Goodwin.
it's always it's always a better. I think she is a really good director. She gets I in her stories when she's directing, I feel I'm seeing the world a little bit because we all
Yep.
get to design these sets in our own eyes. That's what I like about audios, especially Big Finish. Sometimes I'm making it look like 1985, and sometimes I'm trying to make it look like now in my head because of the way it's written and what they're going for. And I think why don't we segue to like wrapping this
Yeah,
up?
yeah.
We thought over all of this. I'll go first. I really think I think Big Finish putting these out every other month in rotation with something else and making it, I think it's better than a box set. I can decide when to buy something a little quicker because it's cheaper, but I just don't buy, I'm not buying as much because it just can't. But I think it's adding to the quality in some way. I think I think that these things are focused and each one has gotten better of these four. And I've liked all of the Christopher Eccleston except for really that first batch. And I
Yeah,
think
we don't speak
No
of
one likes
Ravagers.
that one.
Yeah,
No
we
one
just
no,
don't.
it's
We
not.
just
I
don't
mean, I
talk about
really
that.
hate to say it's just rough, but I think it's getting better, and getting these two people together again is, and if I don't know if they did these in order because you can never can tell. Probably did them all at one time over a week, but I think they're getting better too. I feel overall that these things work really well, and you could have shot this. That's the thing that's getting me is that you could have done this in 2005. You could have found a way to do it. It
Mhm.
very does. I'm glad that, like you guys were saying, it really invokes this year. They're not straying too far from it, and I think it's a good thing. I don't know how they're going to do if they keep doing these year after year for a while, because it'll get a little crazy. But I like it. I like it. I think they're getting better. I would recommend these to anybody. How about you, Melvin?
I really love this. You know, I just get more and more bullish on this series, and I'm really intrigued to see, sort of in the same way that the Jodie range, we're sort of being very very slowly drip fed a through line, but each individual episode is really enjoyable on its own. I feel like they may be they're probably doing something similar with with this particular season. I feel like there's a season arc that we just haven't really picked up on yet. There's an
Yeah.
odd sense in which, like, and I got that because at the very very beginning the doctor keeps referring to what happened last time, and he's talking
Yeah.
about the previous episode. So I'm like, he doesn't, you know, it's not badgered or hammered on too hard, but I sort of feel like that maybe there is a developing season arc here, and I'm really interested to see what it is, because each of these episodes has really been wonderful to listen to as a story in its own right.
Yeah.
And I
They
again
are very, you could watch them in one. You could just grab it randomly and watch it and would still be entertained.
and that's the thing about the, you know, saying watch it, and I know that you're it's sort of a little bit of a Freudian slip, but I've said this before and I'll say it again. These really do feel like lost soundtracks for 2005 episodes. Like, you can see it in your head.
Yeah.
They're so tangible in a way, and so well written. But I really, again, just the final thought here is that the one of the other things that I really loved about this story that I haven't really talked about yet is that the parallels that they're drawing to modern life. Like when Oz and Marty, when they first arrive, the doctor and Rose are asking them, like, well, what about jobs, or like, what about money? And these concepts are totally foreign to them. So there's a sense in which, yes, they are sort of like just sort of batteries for this system, but there's also a sense in which the pillars that like form the foundations of our lives, that we sort of take those things for granted, like money and jobs and stuff like that. Like, we could be doing other things with our time, you know, that there is, we were talking at some point during our, either this discussion or once we were off, when we were briefly off air, about like the you know the amount we spend on healthcare in the US. Like, we take that for granted, whereas in the UK you have a completely different system. You know, it doesn't work like it doesn't. The way we get used to things, the way we're inured to things, isn't the way they've always been. So, like, you know, think about ICE in the airports. Like, ICE didn't even exist until 20 years ago. But again, the way that we sort of take things for granted and the way that they worm their ways into our lives, it's just something that I think Lauren Mooney and Stuart Pringle are asking us to look at, the things that we take for granted.
Right. What about you, Dan?
Yeah, I don't know what else I can say about this. Yeah, another really good episode. I really like them. I should mention that the writers, Lauren Mooney and Stuart Pringle, they did a Third Doctor one called The Quintessence, which is really, really good.
I think I've listened to that.
I'm not a huge fan of the Third Doctor range with all the recasts because I don't need it, if you know what I mean. They're not essential to me. But that one I bought because A, the writers are brilliant, and B, it's a really interesting story, which I'm not going to tell you what happens in it. But
is that one of the ones where it's like 6 episodes?
Yeah, so it's one box set with one big story.
Okay.
It's got Katie Manning in it.
Is it the audio novels? Because I've liked some of those audio novels.
No, it's just a full-on audio play, but it's one box set. It's one long story. It's really good. I'm not going to say anything more, but if you like this, what we've just been listening to, you'll like it. I really recommend it. It's really good. I'm enjoying this range. Next month, we're now in March at the time of recording.
Yes.
Next month, April, we're back in the Powder State, but with a twist. So that's good. We've got Jackie Tyler. And one thing I've noticed is that I don't know what the future is for this range, but it gets replaced in the schedules by the new David Tennant series, because this runs until June 27.
Yep.
And then August 27 is the recently announced 10th Doctor Adventures, which is 12.
I'm so excited for that
12
too.
separate releases of that. So I don't know what's going on with this, because currently we've got 1 month 13th Doctor, 1 month 9th Doctor. But again, I'm sure they'll do more of these because they're very good. And these were all pretty much done in December 2024. What we've been listening to. So I'm sure there's no reason why
probably more in the can. There's got to be.
Because you've got all the people who love doing it and it's great.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't see why they wouldn't do it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's brilliant.
Take the steady check too. You're an actor. Take the check.
It's an easy job in a way. You go in, you have to dress up, you go have to learn your lines.
But by the same token, like if they did sort of quote rest the series for a year,
I don't mind.
Like that would just build up anticipation, because again, these have been very, very good.
I think that's kind of what they're doing. Yeah. I think they Jason Haig-Egler you never tell him ever say he doesn't know what he's doing. He adapts. Mm-hmm. He adapts very well. He runs a good company.
That's great.
Because the quality's up. How about you, Mark?
Yeah, not much else to say. Just to add to what you guys said, I really enjoyed it. I'm really enjoying this series. I prefer Eccleston on audio to the TV show. He wasn't my favorite on TV. I think he seems much more comfortable in the part on audio. I think he exaggerated his Manchester accent on TV, and he feels much closer to the way he normally speaks on here, which I think comes across in the performance as well. I think I really enjoy them, and I enjoy the bi-monthly release because it feels like an event when a new one comes out for the ongoing series. And I think it must have been a success for Big Finish as well with this and the 13th Doctor ones, for them to do the 10th Doctor ones in the same way. So it's it's really good, and I look forward to seeing where the story arc goes. I think it must be because at the very beginning of this story, there's something about when they try to take off, the Doctor says that the TARDIS got pulled back to the Powder State, albeit in a different time. So I think the story arc is something to do with why they can't quite escape it. So it'd be interesting to see where that goes.
Yeah, I'm looking for who's in the 10th Doctor one. Is it just him? And
don't know yet.
No one knows. All we know is it's David Tennant. There's 12 episodes, and there's also another. It's when the press release was very confusing. There's also Out of Time, the team up ones. There's another one of those as well, but that's not
just
part
a box set. It's
that's
just a
not
separate
part of
box
the 12
set.
as far as I can tell. But that hasn't got a date or anything, so I haven't bought that yet.
Yeah,
because I need just give me some information, please, because
I'm
happy to buy your product. But tell me something, and I'll buy it. Yeah, so that's good. I'm looking forward to that. We don't know who's with him or anything about it.
I would do anything if they got Freema back. I know I recently saw, and this was in the last several months, that she was in an audio booth of some kind. So I'm like, there was no indication of anything. It was just that she was in an audio. I mean, obviously she's a wonderful actor, and she's done voice work before. So
she's done a Big Finish too, hasn't she?
She's done a few.
Yeah, a couple.
Yeah, so
did one with Torchwood. Yep.
I would like if it's him and Freema.
I would do
on
anything.
That like stink on shit, because I absolutely love her. I think she is one of the most underrated companions.
Yeah,
Yes,
she
I
got a hot.
really-
She kind of got a rough deal as a character.
she did.
She
Mm.
did,
Yeah.
but that's all but your character. It's the I'm in love, the unrequited love, and then stop doing
Again,
it.
that was like 5 minutes of the season. That was 5
Yeah,
minutes.
it really
But it's
was.
what you remember,
But I do
isn't it,
like
at the
it.
end?
She's one of the rare companions who goes, "No, I'm leaving
That was good.
because I got to do something.
I've got a job, Doctor Who.
Yeah,
Goodbye.
I
You
got
know.
a family, and I'm a
Yeah.
doctor. I want to go do it."
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of liked it. Because a lot of time that, especially in modern Who, it's got to be some tragic, overly
And then
operatic
they're dead,
exit.
and then they're
It's
not
like,
dead, and then
yeah, just stop it.
just
It's
don't do that.
I don't want to. If I wanted to watch a soap opera, I'd watch a soap opera because it's kind of like soap opera deaths.
Mm. No,
You
I
know,
agree. Yeah.
oh look, they've died. You didn't see a body.
Here they are again. Oh.
Because I'm a comic fan, and if you don't see the body, well, hell, you could see
Indeed.
the body.
Even if you
but-
do see the body, they come back anyway. The problem with comics is that then the new creative team will just change everything every bloody time. But I don't care because it's good.
I don't either. No, me neither.
So
Ross,
it's a
what are
good
your
story,
recommendations?
It's a good story.
My recommendation, I'll start because my
yeah.
recommendation is watch the 1939 movie, Goodbye, Mr. Chips. There are also two British television versions. One most recent was Martin Thunes playing Chips, who's now they've spun off his show in America.
Oh yeah.
What's the fight? They
Doc
call it
Martin.
Doc Martin.
Doc
yeah.
Martin has been Americanized. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, he plays the main character's father.
That's also the
Right.
dude from Snake Dance.
Snake
right?
Dance.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was his first TV work.
Martin
Snake
Clunes from
Dance,
Snake
yeah.
Dance to give him his full name. Yeah. Yeah. What a
All
great
right, what
start
about
though,
you?
to your career.
But check that movie out. It's a 19. Robert Donet's not really known much anymore, but he won like two or three of the early Oscars. And it's about a teacher and his effect, and he's very neurodivergent. I watched it a couple years ago, and if you look at it through 21st century eyes, Mr. Chips, he's autistic because all he knows is the facts he's learned, and now he's teaching boys, and he meets an actress and falls in love, and it's the first time he's got a world outside of teaching, and in this little bubble community of the British boarding school of the early 20th century. It's and both actors, especially Peter O'Toole's character, comes off very neurodivergent. It's unintentional, but I think now that we know about that, it really makes the story a little fuller because he's a very good man and he doesn't see value in himself. He just does at times as a human. And then he realizes gets love, and then at the end, there's some tragedy.
Don't spoil it.
But there's a lot about building relationships.
Spoil it.
It's really good.
Spoilers.
It's really good. It's about building a world for yourself.
That similarly, I can segue now professionally here, professional broadcaster here. I can segue that nicely into what I've been reading, which is a book called, it's got a long title, Tales of the Suburbs, LGBTQ plus Lives Behind Net Curtains by John Grindrod. Basically, it's a really good book. It's like social history of real people through in the 20th and 21st century, like non-heterosexual people in suburbia, their tales of how they grew up in suburbia and wanted to leave, but also coming back to suburbia in newer times and fitting in or not fitting in with it in communities, neighborhoods, and diversity and how society has changed. It's lots of little short stories that are real stories about real people, plus some historical document stories in between each kind of little chapter. And I described it as like heartbreaking, but heartwarming as well in equal measures, and about people becoming their real selves when they're able to by leaving home and how they end up in life. It's fascinating and marvelous. And the writer's a Doctor Who fan because he's been on Cy Hart's Library of Impossible Things podcast, which is how I found out about this book in the first
Oh,
place.
that's amazing.
So it all ties together nicely. I recommend that book.
I'll recommend a couple of things if that's all right. I've
Yeah.
on holiday some stuff that I read was Time Shelter by Georgi Gospodinov, 100 Years of Solitude by Gabriel Garcia Marquez, and A Citizen of the Universe, which is this fan written adventure. It's the first installment of Clara Oswald's adventures post Hellbent, which is by friend of Track One, Ruth Long, and a load of other talented people. So that's available to download for free now. And I'm addicted to Sherlock and Co podcast, which I've recently discovered, and there's already loads of episodes of it. And it's adaptations of the original Arthur Conan Doyle canon, but told in modern day with Watson as a true crime podcaster who lives with Sherlock Holmes. Very wittily done. It's really entertaining. And if you know the original stories, how they've updated them is really clever as well.
That's really cool. I want to like pull on a thread you were mentioning for my recommendation. And I know you'd said it before, Mark. The very first time I think we ever podcasted about the Ninth Doctor with Joe Ford on Trap One, there was a discussion. I even made it into a funny little social media clip when you were talking about his mankness, because yes. I believe I referred to it as mancuniality. Yes. But like him using his actual accent, because I have become addicted. Anyone who follows me on the internet, anyone who sees me in real life knows that I love small birds. Like I am just like a small bird fanatic right now. Like I love little birds. And I have become absolutely enthralled with Sean Bean Bird podcast. So Sean Bean is the new host. I think it's season 3 now of the Get Birding podcast. And like we all know Sean Bean from like Lord of the Rings or like Game of Thrones or Time. That was a great series called Time that he did with Stephen Graham and these guys, where it's like, and Jodie Whittaker did the second series. But Sean Bean, he has a presence in movies and TV shows that we are familiar with. On this podcast, I haven't cried yet this episode. I probably will cry right now, but like he's so disarming. Like it's so much more his natural accent that you're hearing. That you're not hearing him put on a character, as it were. So he's running his words together a lot more. He's much more in his sort of native northern accent, and it's really, really charming listening to him talk about his sort of history going back to his childhood, of how much he's invested and how much he's always loved bird watching. So I cannot recommend that more highly. And at the very end of every episode, he does sort of go back into sort of professional actor mode, because he'll read like a short poem about a bird. But the contrast that you hear, and again, he's the host of the podcast, so you would think that there would be a sort of, but again, it's the material that he's talking about, his natural love for birds and his investment in birds, that just listening to his voice, it's like it's a Sean Bean that you've never heard before. And I really, really encourage, no matter where you are on the sort of bird spectrum. And Mark, I know that you're not necessarily a bird. You sent me really amazing bird pictures from
I get good pictures. I get good pictures from Mark as well of birds. So
I love it. So
I just don't know what they are. Yeah,
they're small animals with wings. But yeah, Get Birding podcast.
So
it's
weird. I love birds.
It's incredible. Again, just to hear Sean Bean's natural voice, it's really charming and really, really like it really, really warm and brings you in.
All right, I'll have to check that out. I don't get as much podcast listening since I don't take the bus into work anymore because of my bad foot. Because that's my podcast time is like 6 o'clock in the morning till about basically 6 until 8 in the morning. Just that's the only thing in my ear. And I've been doing audiobooks. I do recommend. I've picked up an audio subscription for a little while so I can listen to the John Carter's of Mars books by Ed Rice Burgos. I've never listened to them, and I got a wild hair up my butt because I really like that movie Disney did.
That movie rules. Yes, John
my
Carter.
Movie's excellent.
It's
and
awesome.
It wasn't a huge hit, really, because it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun, and it didn't try to do too much, and it looked beautiful. Yeah. At the same time, and it was very true because I'm halfway through the first book, and I went, okay, this is pretty much they didn't change anything. So, all right, folks. Hey, thank you for listening. As always, we look forward to seeing you somewhere in time or space.